Okay, hello and welcome to the Weight Loss Show. I'm happy to be here talking to you. The Weight Loss Show is here to help you access the information that supports your healthy, sustainable weight loss transformation starting today. So I'm Dr. Julie Wilkening. I am the owner of the Habit Change Lab and a functional medicine specialist. And I bring together some of the most dynamic, effective health coaches and practitioners to talk about some really important topics, especially for your weight loss. So this episode today is called 3 Things You Can Do to Make a Low-Carb Lifestyle Successful. Definitely, I know this is something that people have on their minds because you want it to be a success. You don't want to just play around with diets. But a quick disclaimer, this is information that myself, and my guest are presenting here today. And it is meant to simply be that, just information. It's not a guarantee. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. And I've got a really special guest today, my colleague Amy White, on the topic of low-carb living and what holds people back from the success they want to get, the outcomes that they crave. So hi, Amy.
Hi. Very excited to be here.
Glad you are here. So I just want to dive really quickly into some of the problems that you may face, people watching this, especially if you've tried low-carb dieting. And that may be, number one, that you're approaching low-carb eating as a diet, not a lifestyle. So diets don't really feel very good. It's usually, feels harder, or it feels like something that you're just doing for now and it's not worth it for the future. So you may be approaching it that way. Many people do not change their food environment. And so that basically sabotages your efforts at whatever you're doing if you're trying to make a new lifestyle change. And sometimes there's too much focus and almost a hyper attention on the macro numbers. And definitely not good. You can get a little bit too focused there. And so you're really going to want to listen in on this interview as my friend and colleague Amy White shared some of her favorite tips. And what you're going to do is you're going to learn here why it's important to move past the idea of diet and embrace a low-carb lifestyle. And she's going to talk about how changing your food environment can create the confidence that you need to be consistent with your low-carb choices and create the success that you crave. She's also going to talk about how to track your food in a way that will help you notice where you can make adjustments when you hit a weight loss plateau. So let me talk a little bit more about Amy. Amy White is a board-certified nutritionist and a certified functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner. She is also a low-sugar advocate and someone who has successfully lived a low-carb lifestyle for the past 10 years. Amy combines her experience living low-carb and knowledge as a nutritionist to help others ditch calorie-focused dieting in favor of lifestyle changes. And so you can dive more into Amy's work and what she teaches by going to www.amywhitenutrition.com. You could follow her on Instagram at The Simplicity of Wellness, and you can go to Facebook and see her at, again, The Simplicity of Wellness. So thank you again, Amy, for joining me. How are you today?
I'm great, feeling good, very excited to share.
Wonderful. We like that. So I'm curious, how did you get into this topic of either health coaching or the nutrition that you work with other people on today?
My daughter was the catalyst. So she was mid-teens, 15, 16, and she had always suffered with gastrointestinal upset since she was a baby. So she'd had colic and didn't do a lot of sleeping, all the things that seem normal for a baby. And I remember when she was like 6 or 7, I think our pediatrician even gave her prescription antacids because they said, oh, she just has reflux. And I had no idea. I was like, oh, I didn't know kids who are 6 are on antacids. Interesting. I thought that was normal. But she didn't really take them. They didn't really help. But then as she was, college was looming, and I got a little worried because she actually never really felt great. So I got nervous. I didn't want her to go to school and not feel well. So I said, you know what, we're going to take care of this once and for all. We're going to go see the expert, the gastroenterologist, and we're just going to get it taken care of. So basically we did, and we did an invasive scope, the whole bit. And the answer was, she's fine. She's just going to need to take prescription antacids for the rest of her life. And again, I'm like, that just doesn't seem fine to me. And it seems weird. And I don't know if everybody here knows that, but prescription antacids are a short-term medication. You should never be taking those long-term. So that all just seemed weird to me. But here's what happened. I didn't know what to do because we'd seen the expert. I was incredibly frustrated. I was angry, and I was scared because I thought, who do you ask? What do you do next? And I was totally at a loss. And so one of my friends said, you should go see this nutritionist. And I said, I don't even know what that is, but I'm game. We'll do whatever we need to do. And that was the beginning of all of this for me. That nutritionist made some dietary changes for my daughter, simple stuff. She just suggested some things. And within 2 weeks, the dandruff, the stinky feet that my daughter had been dealing with since she was a baby, gone. And then the puffiness that she developed as a teenager, gone. And it was like a miracle. So now I understand that the stinky feet and the dandruff was her body detoxing or trying to detox something that wasn't working for her body, which were these foods, which we then eliminated. But that was when I all of a sudden was just like, this is magic. And so I needed to learn everything that I could about food and the body. I just thought, this is crazy, because I thought we were doing everything right. You know, we were following the guidelines and doing what we were supposed to do, which was going to make us healthy, but yet it didn't make my daughter healthy. So wait a second, what was happening?
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got into that. So it was all about gut health. And then I ended up several years later having to intervene into my husband's health, also a huge gut issue. And we were, again, let down by the medical community, and that was pretty scary. And his was much more serious, but he's recovered. And both of their stories are on my website. So if people want to read more into that, they can read their complete stories. But the thing that's so interesting about this whole low sugar lifestyle, so this happened with my daughter when I was just starting into my 40s. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was learning about food and the body and starting my master's in nutrition program. I realized that my body wasn't responding the way it used to all of my tricks and, you know, things that I would do to manage how I felt and my weight. And I was starting to put on weight but I was doing all the right things. Like I said, I was, you know, eating low fat. I was counting my calories. I was, minimizing my proteins and, you know, eating a lot of whole grains and veggies and fruits, lots of fruit. But somehow my body was not getting better. It was getting worse. And so again, thank goodness I was in my nutrition program, because I started to go, wait a second, you know, what is happening? I think at one point I thought, you know, I'll just buy bigger clothes. And I think I did. And that didn't actually make me feel that good. So right. I was like, wait a second, my body, something's happening. And that was scary too, not having control, like not understanding what to do with your own body. So anyway, as it turned out, I started understanding sugar and inflammation, and that's when I sort of shifted my diet and started taking the sugars out. And all of a sudden, my body started to respond in a way that I expected and wanted. And so it's been 10 years, and I'm going to be 53, and I am in better shape and way more comfortable in my body than I was when I was 43. And I've since then had the pleasure of working with so many amazing people and helping them understand how food was impacting their body. So, and my approach is like this funnel. So, you know, at the top is food, and that's where I start with everybody now. It's always gut related, but everything you eat affects your gut. So we start there. And often when we start to get rid of the inflammatory food and toxins, you feel better and your body all of a sudden starts responding properly. Now, some people we have to funnel down a little bit more. You know, maybe this doesn't completely make them feel the way they want to feel. So then we have to go a little deeper and see maybe where there are some other imbalances and work on that. But, everybody's going to be different. But the reason I'm focusing on sort of this low sugar, low carb life is because most people on that top level get better. It's just it's just kind of teaching them or helping them understand what our food is and then how that impacts the body, because our body only understands food. Food is the language of the body. So if you want to work with your body, you need to know you need to know how to tell it what you want, and you do that with food. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
No, I love it. Yeah. And I love that, you kind of get the whole picture of what's going to help the majority of people like right away. And you kind of get to that straight away, because I'm sure that everybody wants, especially if they haven't been food focused or they've done random diets throughout their lifestyle. It's nice to just get some wins under your belt and start feeling better too. That's like top priority.
I think the scary part is so many people come to me and they're like, no, I'm doing everything right. I eat a great healthy diet.
Right.
And I exercise like crazy. But why? It's just not working. I'm not sure what's not working. And then when we kind of dig in and I explain where the sugars are coming from, they're stunned. They're like, what? I don't eat sugar. And I'm like, well, let's look a little closer.
Right.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dive into some of your tips, which are really interesting and I think really pertinent to a lot of people. And that, a lot of people get stuck at the spot where maybe they start something like a diet and then they hate it or it's so. And so let's talk about how people get stuck and they hate the whole diet thing that they've kind of got onto.
So, right. So there's diet and there's lifestyle. And diet is definitely short-term, quick wins. That's what you're looking for. You're not really changing anything. You're just looking for sort of this quick win. And a lifestyle is when you're going to actually make changes in your body. And it's a much longer term game. I mean, if you really want to feel healthy, feel good, age well, you need to embrace the idea of lifestyle. So, and I'm going to kind of couch this in sort of a low carb frame. So people that kind of are hearing and reading about low carb or even a ketogenic diet think, oh my gosh, that's great. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. And that is the diet mentality. So they're jumping in with this finish line, as their goal. And what happens is they go in too fast. So they cut their sugars. They just go like 100%, cut their sugars, huge intensity. And then they burn out because they feel incredibly lousy because they cut their sugars too fast. And so then they quit. And then they go ahead and tell everybody else, oh, that low carb thing totally doesn't work. It's horrible. So that's one problem. The second problem is you can lose some weight pretty quickly, and it's going to be water weight. And there's nothing wrong with losing water weight. If you have water to lose, that's a good thing because you will feel better. You won't be as puffy, and if your hands won't be as stiff. So that's great. You want to lose the water, but if you think that that's made a change in your body, it hasn't. As soon as you go, woohoo, I lost 10 pounds and start eating what you used to eat, you will gain that 10 pounds right back. You did nothing. You just, dropped some water weight. Changing your body composition, which is losing fat, it's a longer term game. And the other thing is you have a diet mentality when you go into it. So you have this very narrow focus on your scale. And again, for the first week or two, that's going to probably motivate you because you'll see some change. Some people don't, some people do. And it often depends on how much weight you have to lose. But that will stop. Because once you've gotten rid of the excess water, now you need to start burning off that body fat to make some change. And the scale won't necessarily move very quickly. And people will then lose their motivation. And again, they'll quit because they don't know what else to watch. You have to tune into your body. So when you're dieting, you're kind of trying to control your body. And when you're living a lifestyle, you're connected to your body. So you're able to assess what's going on. So my solutions for these problems, let's say, are first things first, expand your perspective. So you want to expand to a longer term timeline. So a long-term game as opposed to this short finish line. No finish line, just throw the finish line away. Then you need to learn how to self-assess instead of self-judge. So self-judging is very much a diet mentality. You know, I did great. I'm awesome. Oh my gosh, I did horrible. I'm the worst person ever. I might as well eat another Reese's peanut butter cup, you know, whatever. So there's no room for self-judgment, only self-assessment, because you can't change and adjust what you don't know. So if you're not assessing what's happening, and you need to do it, you know, no emotion. Pretend you're assessing for your best friend. She's like, I did this thing and it didn't, you know, I'm not sure what, you know, go, okay, well, let's look at this. Don't get emotionally involved. Just step back. And then you have to move beyond the scale. And what I tell people, or anybody that I work with, we're going to be doing measurements. You're going to take photos, because often your body composition is going to shift long before you're going to see a lot of movement on the scale. So your inches are going to drop before you're going to be like, I lost 15 pounds. That's not going to, you know, so you need to know what to watch so you can stay motivated and understand you are doing the right thing. The other thing I have everybody do is I tell them to trace back their day, or actually I've changed a little bit to traces of your day. So at the end of a day, I have everybody rate from 0 to 10 their temperament or mood for the day, their level of rest. So they have to think back to the night before. How well did I sleep? Their appetite, you know, is it out of control? Was it in control? You know, what was the day like? Cravings, energy, and then stress. So what was your level of perceived stress? You know, were you frantic? Were you pretty calm? So I have everybody rate those from 0 to 10, because again, as you're moving toward 10s, which are awesome, that's the good end of the scale, you'll know that you're internally, your body's adjusting. You're coming back into balance. So the more those things move in a positive direction, it's another indication that you're doing the right thing. So to stay the course, don't lose sight of what you're shifting. It's much more than weight. Weight will follow a healthy body. Or a healthy weight will follow a healthy body. So again, the thing that's positive about a lifestyle over a diet is you get to focus on the trends. So not on the daily numbers. You're looking at this trend. So you want to see progress over time. You're not going to freak out if you have a misstep, because you know, okay, wait a second. There's no finish line. And I'm going to just evaluate and assess, why did I have a misstep? What was going on? What was my stress like? How did I sleep? What, you know, your triggers. You have to know your triggers. What situation was I in? And then you want to focus on what is working. So again, that perspective. So again, if the scale isn't doing it for you right now, then look at all the other stuff that's going on. And then one of my friends, clients, Nicole, is amazing. And she is a very high achiever in a very stressful life. She has 2 little children. She's a college professor. She also has a book deal where she's traveling back and forth to Rwanda a lot. And she creates these expectations that she generally achieves. And so she was getting very frustrated because she wasn't losing that weight. The scale wasn't moving. And I understand it. It had been 8 weeks. And I think overall she'd only lost officially 4 pounds on her scale. But when we started talking about it, she was able to easily recognize, oh, right, I'm in a totally different size in my clothes. Oh, my trainer told me I look amazing. What am I doing? Another friend told me same thing. God, you look amazing. So she was getting all these compliments. She's sleeping better. She doesn't have any sugar binges anymore. And then she said her real shift came when we talked perspective, and she started looking long-term and just a bigger perspective overall. And she said, all of a sudden, I would give myself permission to have a little piece of chocolate as a treat. And she goes, but then once I changed my perspective, I was like, oh, right, I'm going to have that piece of chocolate after lunch. And then she said, and then I didn't want it because I was like, but I'm not really in the mood. And she goes, and that was a totally new thing. So that was really exciting. And I loved hearing that. And she's doing amazing. And it's fun to watch that shift for her because she is going to be successful, and she's already successful. But now she can see that too.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, it's great to just hear how you take people's, take the shift off of the scale, because I know that's a huge thing, and probably people's clothes. And especially when you talk about your client that, you know, she made such big strides, and here she is focusing on the one thing that
Right.
shifted a little, but then everything else was going well, and how much nutrition, and I'm sure your advice with all that has really helped her, you know, get in a better spot. So amazing. Yeah. So I'm curious, like, how does someone actually, you know, make a change when it comes to a low carb lifestyle? What does it take for someone to make change?
That's such a good question. And the first thing I always want to work with people on is adjusting their environment. So creating an environment that's going to make you successful. And that comes down. So for instance, so we're creatures of habit, as you know, and often our habits are a product of our environment. So if we don't shift the environment to one that's going to work for our low carb goals, then we're going to end up not having much consistency. And then if we don't have consistency, what we're doing is we're continuing to have these blood sugar swings because there's still sugar in our diet. And then those blood sugar swings will create cravings. And then that causes us to then constantly second guess our choices. So we don't have much confidence in what maybe we're eating. So then we're feeling like our choices are very narrow. And I think I have a cold or these allergies. So narrow, so too narrow. And then the whole idea becomes very unsustainable. It's like, you can't live this way. So that's a problem if you're not going to, you know, set yourself up for success. And all of those things, once you kind of get the hang of it, those things go away. So what you need to do, I like to do this total kitchen clean out. So we're going to get rid of all the stuff that you really shouldn't be eating. Let's just get rid of it. We're going to clean it out, and then we're going to restock so that you are in a position when you're in your home, anything you reach out to touch or eat, you don't have to think about it. You're like, oh yeah, no, that fits into my plan. That's good for me. It's all fine. The problem, there is a little bit of a glitch here, and that is if you aren't the only one in the house, but you maybe are the only one eating a low sugar diet, then you have to manage your food a little bit. So if it's a one-to-one, so it's you and someone else who isn't eating low sugar, I would take their food and put them in bins in the pantry and in the fridge. So your food is available and visible. Their food out of sight, out of mind. However, if you're outnumbered, it's probably makes more sense to put your food in the bins and let the other food kind of hang out. But you also train yourself to know that you're looking in the bins. So, oh, those are my bins, whatever's in my bin. So, but there is this separation for you. If that helps a little bit. Ideally, you want to get everyone in the family on the same page. So you want everyone to eat with you. That would be the best. That's the ideal. So when I talk about restocking, this is sort of one of my biggest things, is I talk about restocking with what I call good, better, best foods. So these are all foods that fit into your lifestyle, but they're going to be help you when you need to make a fast choice versus your sort of best homemade choice. So when you come home from work and you're totally exhausted, and maybe you're suffering with decision fatigue, so you can't even think about what you're going to eat. This is often when people will just start binging out of the pantry, whatever, at hand. So first of all, if your kitchen's properly stocked, that's okay. It's not great, but it's better than it would have been. But if you know how to stock with good, better, best foods, then you'll always have a good choice, a proper choice. So a good food is going to be something that's probably pre-made. So it may be something that's frozen in a package in your freezer. You may have bought a roasted chicken at the grocery store. That's fine. It's pre-made. So there are companies now that make packaged foods that are low carb, which is in my freezer. So if I'm tired, I can just grab the enchiladas and then make those in the microwave in a minute and a half. And because I know it's a good food and it fits with what works for my body, if I'm still hungry, I'm going to have more enchiladas. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm still hungry, and then kind of try to fight it and then end up caving in on something that maybe that I shouldn't eat. If it's, so if you're eating the right food, you actually can and should eat until you're full, and your body will process that food properly. The other important part, again, is back to that assessment and understanding when you need to make a good choice versus a better or a best choice. So a best choice is something that you're going to make at home using the best ingredients. So that's going to be the most time consuming. So of course you're going to need to make sure you have time and that you're relaxed and you have the energy to do those best choices. So know yourself and understand your week and which foods are going to fit in perfectly. And again, this is all within your low carb lifestyle. So it doesn't matter. All of it's going to work. You're not going to be spiking blood sugar. It's all going to be, managing your blood sugars. You're not going to create these extra cravings. You're going to eat till you're full. So one of the benefit is you're going to be forced to make the right choice because that's what's available. Your blood sugar will remain stable, so no cravings. You won't be overly hungry because you'll be eating satiating foods, so no binging. And you'll have fast and easy choices when you need them. And so this is kind of like how I live. This is my life. And I just recently was cracking up because I'm also know your triggers. And one of my triggers is stress. And I am a sugar addict. So I struggle. And so when I'm stressed, I want sweets. And I was cracking up because last week I was just like in the kitchen constantly. And then I was just like, but you know what? What am I having? I'm having my homemade sugar-free Jell-O with homemade whipped cream. And I'm having my Lily's chocolate, which is sugar-free chocolate.
I know it.
I made a chocolate chip, mug cake with almond flour and the right ingredients that are in my pantry. Yeah. So I was like cheating, but I wasn't cheating. It was totally fitting into my lifestyle. Now, of course, you don't want that to be the foundation of your diet because it's a little energy dense, not enough nutrients, but still totally worked. So that's a kind of a way to think about it.
Totally. And, you're not feeling bad afterward. That's a huge thing. Get on those sugar binges and maybe you were stressed as heck and then that's why you did it. Unfortunately, it kind of plays out later as, possibly mood swings and
exactly
more sugar. Yeah. And so when you're eating these healthy things like you're talking about, I mean, it's just, you feel like you're going off course, but you're not, and you're eating things that are tasty, and they're going to leave you feeling better afterward.
And they did help.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Trust me, I've got my own too, and I Lily's chocolate. So, moving on to just when people have plateaus in their weight, and they are trying to get to a certain point. They're at a weight loss plateau. Do you have any advice for people who are committed to a low-carb lifestyle so they can keep on having success even if they've plateaued?
Well, yes. And also, you really have to understand what a plateau is. So if nothing changes in a week, that's not really a plateau. Even like a couple weeks, you really have to push that out to 3-4 months with no change before you really can define it as maybe a plateau. But I still understand the frustration. So the first thing I say is if you haven't made that body connection, so you aren't able to self-assess, that's going to be problem number one, because you're not going to be able to see subtle shifts and things that have changed that you're just not going to be able to notice what's maybe causing you to kind of stall. Because again, you can't change what you don't know. So you have to be able to assess. And then back this idea of focusing on macros. So if you're focusing on like percentages, so a lot of people focus, especially in a ketogenic crowd, they focus on the percentages. A ketogenic diet is broken down into like 75% fats, 25% proteins, and 5% carbs as your overall calorie breakdown. And that's a broad stroke percentages. So you really need to be able to look beyond percentages or dig deeper than a percentage if you want to see subtle shifts. So my solution is always, again, to self-assess. So, and then trace how you're feeling. So you need to look at those TRACES for stress again and see what's going on. Maybe you've been sleeping lousy. That would be a factor. Maybe your stress has gone sky high. Huge factor. So you have to understand what else is going on besides just your food. But then when it comes to your food, you have to track. A lot of people don't want to track. But again, finances. If your finances are a mess, you're not going to just be like, gosh, I hope our money stuff works out. You're just not. You're going to sit down and you're going to kind of dig in and look at what's going on. And then you're going to make adjustments. So it's the same with your food. You can't just be like, gosh, I hope this food thing kind of figures itself out. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to start tracking and look and see what's going on. Now, again, a lot of people, the other thing with tracking though, you can track daily, which you need to do, but you need to focus on weekly. So track daily, but then average out your week and look at your weekly averages, because some days you're going to be less hungry and eat less, and some days you're going to be more hungry and eat more. And do not self-judge on the days that you'll eat more. It's fine. Yeah. If you ate less the day before, you're probably going to be hungrier the next day. And it all works out if you average out the week. So look at your averages. And for those who are tracking, this is when we get into that whole, I'm hitting my percentages. I've got my macros, I've got my 75, my 25, and my 5, and I'm totally hitting my percentages. That's not actually telling you a lot about the quality of your food and quantity. You have to dig deeper. And so I have a really good example of this. So my friend Sharon is amazing, super compliant. She's amazing, actually. And she was tracking. So she did go ahead and track, but she didn't weigh or measure anything. She was just estimating on her tracking. But every single week when I did her averages, she was hitting 75, 25, and 5. Her percents were on the money, and her calories were right around 1,500. So I was okay with that. They weren't too low. And everything, she felt great. And she wasn't snacking, and her energy was great at the end of the day, where she used to get home and just be like, I can't make dinner, I'm too tired. And she was snacking in the past. So she was eating enough. She was feeling great. She was losing weight. It was all happening. Her measurements were changing. Everything was good. And then at weeks, so that was 5 weeks. And then at week 6, she's like, yeah, no, there was no change this week. And then week 7 and week 8, and she's like, yeah, no, interesting. But she understood, and she knew to look at the bigger picture. And so she was not freaking out, but she was frustrated, which I understand. So I said, let me dig in a little bit here. So I went back and averaged out the first 5 weeks, and then I averaged out the 3 weeks that were problematic. And again, right on the money, 75%, 25%, 5% for her macros. Her calories were right around 1,500 still. And I'm like, But then I looked at the grams. And the first 5 weeks, she was averaging about 100 grams of fat per day and about 85 to 90 grams of protein. And her carbs were below 20. And then when I looked at the 3 weeks she was stalled, her fats had gone up to 150 grams on average. And her proteins had dropped into the 70s, so 70 grams. And then her carbs had kind of stayed the same. It was this shift in fats and proteins. And I thought, interesting. And she's postmenopausal. And generally when women are over 40, perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal, a traditional ketogenic diet doesn't actually work as well. You have to shift your fats and your proteins. You want to eat a little bit more protein and a little less fat, and that seems to be kind of more magical for this type of woman. So I said, let's adjust your fats, because she had started adding some fat bombs and some other things. So let's adjust those fats back down and your proteins up just a little. So she just a little shift, and she lost 5 pounds that week. So that was just right. So just understanding that subtle change made the difference. And she's consistently now, losing, 1 to 2 pounds a week. And again, frustrated because she's got a lot of weight to lose. And I said, what do you add that up and tell me what kind of weight loss that's going to be in a year? And then she's like, oh, I'm like, yes. So again, we extended that perspective, and it made all the difference.
Definitely. And at some point, she's going to be at a healthy, weight, and it's not going to be all about that anymore. And learning a lot
Right.
on the journey.
Well, actually, the other thing that's interesting is once you do get to your healthy weight, when you get to the place you want to stay, you actually do kind of then increase your fats a little bit more because
Mm.
you're maintaining. So you got to realize that if you're going to feed your body a whole bunch of fat, but you have a personal pantry that you need to get rid of, your body's not going to dig into the pantry because it's always going to follow the path of least resistance. So
Oh,
if you're just giving it on a silver platter all this fat, it's like, well, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and use that. Why would I dig deep? So you got to
yeah.
bring those fats down a little bit, let your body dig in, and then once you're where
Yeah.
you need to be, then those fats can come back up a bit because you can just manage and eat use up those dietary fats.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's work for the body to get rid of that fat.
Right, exactly. It doesn't want to do what it doesn't need to do.
Doesn't want to. It's lazier than your mind, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all that. So we went over a lot of great tips. We talked about with Amy White here why it's important to move past the idea of diet and embrace a low carb lifestyle. And she was talking about, which I thought was amazing, throwing away your finish line. So you're not in a diet, you're not trying to diet, you are throwing that finish line away. Maybe even getting past that scale too. You're not just using your scale to assess how you're doing, because there's other ways to assess. And as she was saying, sometimes you're changing that your body makeup and composition, but you're keeping the same weight. So you need other ways so that you can determine that you're being successful in what you're doing. Okay, and then we talked about how changing your food environment can create the confidence you need to be consistent with your low carb choices and to create the success that you crave. And Amy talked about your total kitchen clean out and how to eat until you are full, which is everybody's dream right there, right? No problem if you could eat till you're full. And you have choices. You have good, better, and best, if I got that right, choices for eating. So you don't have to starve. You don't have to diet. You can feel good, and you're actually going to feel better when you get on track with the right type of eating. And then we talked about how to track your food in a way that will help you notice where you can make adjustments when you hit your weight loss plateau. So some people are great at keeping their macros in check, as we talked about with her client there, but it's not for everybody. And still, if you hit a plateau, you got to put yourself in perspective and realize what is a plateau and where are you on it? Are you even hitting a plateau, or do you what's going on? Sometimes looking at your stress levels, and then also the stage you are in life and what you need at that time. So really good information. And I thank you so much for sharing all this. Now, you may be wondering, watching this, I've tried before, but how do I make a change now in my low carb eating? And how am I going to be supported in this new lifestyle? And so Amy has a nutrition lifestyle course called Hangry to Healthy, your low carb game plan for real life. And it opens for enrollment in January. So it's coming very soon. And then you can get overall, you can have fun during the holidays if that's what you want to do, and then get on track for a lifetime. So a lifestyle with Amy here. So Hangry to Healthy is a perfect program for you. If you struggle with sugar addiction, you hate dieting because you feel hungry, deprived, and even alone, you've been diagnosed as pre-diabetic and you want to take control of your health, maybe you know how to live low carb, easy to get that how, but you just don't know how to do it. Maybe you enjoy the support and motivation of other like-minded people, and this is your program. So you can follow that link, Hangry to Healthy. It'll be on my blog and near the YouTube channel, and you can just click on that and you can get more information about Amy's upcoming course. It's going to be great. And if you want to get started really quickly, kind of get the quick start by yourself sooner, Amy also has a free handout guide. It's called Stop Cheating on Your Low Carb Plan Without Skipping Dessert. Sounds amazing. So this free guide includes 5 low carb dessert recipes, a visual shopping guide, so you know exactly what you need, It has information about embracing progress over perfection. It has a checklist to help you decide which dessert will fit your mood, and a short list of low-carb snacks to have at the ready and while at work. So the link you can go to is amywhitenutrition.mykajabi.com/stop cheating on low carb, no spaces in between that. And I'll have the link on my blog and near the YouTube channel, the YouTube video. So click on that. You can get that for free. And you can join that support group, which is going to be really important when you actually want to make these changes. You want to make it into a lifestyle. So thank you, Amy White, for sharing all your information. Do you have any words that you can leave us with for that woman who's maybe struggling and needs some support in making a low-carb lifestyle?
Well, just that, you don't have to do it alone. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, or like you were just saying, it's easy to kind of know what you're supposed to do, but then it's not necessarily super easy to do it. It's why anybody hires a trainer, at the gym. We all know how to exercise, but do we do it? Not if we don't hire a trainer. So that's where I see a lot of people struggle, is they're trying to kind of do it by themselves. Yeah. But you don't have to do it by yourself. And it's not really that easy if you're just getting started. It's so helpful if buy this, make this. This is something you can make in 10 minutes. This is something you can, that's kind of what I lead people through all of that. We start and again, more visual guides. I do tons of visual shopping guides. And so I kind of outline everything and make it really easy to find stuff. And it's so much easier to buy things when you know what you're looking for, especially because some of the low carb stuff is weird. And then, we get into even baking, using almond flours and coconut flours. Yeah. You got to be a little careful there too. So you have to kind of understand that. So there are nuances that I think can help a lot of people if they work with somebody and really understand what they're doing. So it's my Hangry to Healthy program is really kind of that out of the gate, let's do this right. But if you're going to do it right and be successful, because it's totally sustainable, it's easy, and it's delicious. But you just have to know what you're doing. So many people complain about feeling like it's just too narrow. I'm just not sure what I should have in the house. I'm not sure what I should order in a restaurant. And we do all of that, so you don't feel kind of stuck. You need diversity, and you need to make sure you're enjoying your lifestyle. Definitely.
And a coach who knows what you're supposed to do and can cheer you on and knows about, habit work and getting it into your lifestyle. That's amazing. So again, Hangry to Healthy, you can you can jump on that link and get into the program that's starting in January. It's going to be very supportive for your low carb lifestyle. You can also grab that freebie that is on the blog and around this video, and you're just going to love what you get from there. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and the audience, and just love all this information that you're so generous in sharing. So I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. The more I can pass along the low carb lifestyle and low sugar, the happier I am.
Awesome. We love that. Thank you so much, and have a great day. I'll talk to you again soon.